I'm thrilled Star Trek finally revealed Voyager's Mirror Universe. I've been waiting for a Star Trek Voyager Mirror Universe episode for years. So of course, I'm thrilled that Star Trek Prodigy finally delivered. Since its introduction in Star Trek, the original series, the Mirror Universe has become a staple of the franchise, adding a great layer of intrigue to the Star Trek timeline. The appeal of seeing the dark side of your favorite characters is fairly universal, and I've always liked the fact that Star Trek found a way to make showing those dark sides a reality without damaging the reputations of some of its most popular characters. As a longtime Voyager fan, however, I've also always been sad that the series never had an official Mirror Universe episode. Voyager is far from the only Star Trek series not to explore the Mirror Universe. Star Trek: The Next Generation never had a Mirror Universe episode, and still did very well for itself for 7 seasons. Conversely, some of the best Mirror Universe lore wasn't explored until the franchise's modern era with shows like Star Trek Discovery. Still, I always felt as though not showing the Mirror Universe counterparts of Voyager's cast of characters was a missed opportunity. Star Trek Prodigy finally revealed Voyager's Mirror Universe. Luckily, thanks to Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, Voyager's Mirror Universe is a mystery no more. Prodigy Season 2, Episode 14, Cracked Mirror, finally introduced 2 Voyager Mirror Universe characters into the franchise, and the series couldn't have done a better job. After the USS Voyager A was split into different timelines, Prodigy's cast of characters came face-to-face with Mirror Admiral Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, and Captain Chakotay, Robert Beltran, pitting themselves and Prime Chakotay against the 2 darker versions in several harrowing scenes. For me, Mirror Janeway and Chakotay were incredibly fun to watch, and even though they were only included in a few scenes, Prodigy's establishment of them was a great addition to the series. Prodigy, opening the door to Voyager's Mirror Universe, leaves room for future shows to explore other parallel Voyager characters, and Cracked Mirror left some tantalizing questions about Mirror Janeway and Chakotay, such as the extent of their obvious romance or why Mirror Janeway has a Borg implant over one eye, reminiscent of 7 of 9, Jerry Ryan. Why Star Trek Voyager never had a Mirror Universe episode. Although Star Trek has never offered a concrete explanation for Voyager's lack of a Mirror Universe episode, there are some possibilities. For one thing, I can think of 2 Voyager episodes that still explored darker versions of the characters. The most memorable was Living Witness, a Season 4 episode that was set on a planet thousands of years in the future, where the alien inhabitants remembered Voyager as a warship and Captain Janeway as a tyrant. Likewise, the Season 7 episode Author saw the Doctor, Robert Picardo, create a holonovel whose characters highlighted the worst qualities of Voyager's cast. More likely, however, Voyager steered clear of the Mirror Universe because it was already being explored in other parts of the franchise. Star Trek Deep Space Nine had an ongoing Mirror Universe storyline in several episodes, exploring the universe for the first time since Star Trek TOS. Since DS9 and Voyager were airing at the same time, and Voyager often tried to distance itself from DS9, leaving the Mirror Universe to be explored in its sister series would have only made sense. Whatever the reason, in my opinion, Star Trek Prodigy has more than made up for it. I'll never understand why people hate Star Trek DS9 as Ferengi episodes. I've never understood why people hate Star Trek Deep Space Nine's brilliant Ferengi comedy episodes. Criticisms leveled at DS9's Ferengi episodes over the years state that they're too overtly comic, or that characters like Quark, Armin Shimerman, or Rom, Max Grodenchik, don't deserve the limelight. Interestingly, those same critics praise Nog, Aaron Eisenberg, as the most interesting Ferengi, presumably because he made history as a Starfleet Academy cadet. If Nog's Starfleet career makes him more important to these critics than Quark or Rom, then I wonder if they've missed the point of DS9 as Ferengi episodes. More than any other show in the franchise, Star Trek Deep Space Nine opened up the universe by introducing characters who weren't affiliated with Starfleet. DS9's cast of characters was specifically designed to bring Starfleet and non-Federation characters together. This made the Star Trek universe much richer, because DS9 could tell stories from outside the Starfleet perspective. I've always found these episodes to be the most interesting, whether they were about the dark past of Major Kira Nerys, Nana Visitor, or the comic capers of Quark and Rom. I've always loved Star Trek DS9 as Ferengi comedy episodes, I love Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Ferengi episodes because, as protagonists, Quark and Rom are in direct contrast to the stuffy professionalism of their Starfleet counterparts. For example, in DS9 Season 3, Episode 16, Prophet Motive, Quark negotiates with the Bajoran prophets to restore Grand Nagus Sec, Wallace Shawn, to his old self. Quark's diplomacy in Prophet Motive puts Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, to shame. Because Quark's morality may not match up with that of Starfleet and the Federation, Prophet Motive brilliantly subverts the tired Star Trek trope of bargaining with godlike beings. After 3 decades, Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Ferengi episodes provided a fresh spin on franchise tropes because Quark is motivated by profit, not progress. For example, an episode like Rules of Acquisition is essentially a traditional Star Trek story about first contact with a new alien race. And yet, the template is the same. Quark wants to gain an understanding of strange new worlds and civilizations. It's just he wants that information to secure himself a profitable trade deal with the Dosi. Quark's best DS9 episodes all subvert classic Star Trek tropes with hilarious results, which I admit may not be for everyone, but they've always worked for me. In my opinion, episodes like Little Green Men and The Magnificent Ferengi are among some of the finest comedy episodes that Star Trek ever produced. From the intricately structured comic scripts by writers like Ronald D. Moore and Ira Stephen Bear, to the pitch-perfect performances of stars like Armin Shimmerman, Max Grodenchik, Aaron Eisenberg, and Wallace Shawn, I always know I'm in for a good time when I watch one of Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Ferengi episodes. Why Star Trek needs more comedy like DS9's Ferengi episodes? I'm fully aware that there are Star Trek Deep Space Nine fans who feel that the Ferengi episodes are a hurdle they have to jump. As DS9 ramps up the Dominion War arc from Season 4 onward, I can see how some fans feel that the Ferengi episodes are an irritating distraction. Quark and Rom embroiled in another caper with the Grand Nagus could feel frivolous when the Federation is facing the existential threat of the Dominion. However, without those Ferengi episodes, DS9 could have become a relentless, grimdark slog. Modern Star Trek could learn a lot from the Ferengi episodes, as the shift to emulating prestige television has left little room for comedy. Star Trek TV shows were always able to balance light and dark over the course of 26 episodes a year. In the 2020s, with reduced episode counts, it often feels that shows like Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard dropped the frivolous comedy. I'd argue that this was why people had such an issue getting on board with the pale-faced and desperately serious tone of Discovery and Picard Seasons 1 and 2, because there was no counterbalance. Worse still, Star Trek's funniest show, Star Trek Lower Decks, ends with Season 5 later this year. Thankfully, Star Trek Strange New Worlds has brought comedy back to the franchise in a big way, delivering some raucously funny hours of television since its premiere in 2022. SNW is definitely the successor to Star Trek Deep Space Nine, seamlessly balancing comedy with darker action-packed episodes. However, I still feel like we need what Quark and the Ferengi brought, an alien species that provides a completely fresh and funny perspective on Starfleet's mission. Star Trek TNG's Emmy's loss became a Dr. Bashir DS9 story. Star Trek The Next Generation's loss at the 1994 Emmy Awards inspired a storyline for Dr. Julian Bashir, Alexander Siddig, in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Across 7 seasons, Star Trek TNG racked up an impressive 58 nominations and 17 awards at the Emmys between 1988 and 1994. TNG performed well in the technical categories at the Emmy Awards, but it was only in contention for the Outstanding Drama Series prize once. The lack of Emmy recognition for TNG actors is, rightly, a bone of contention for those that worked on the show between 1988 and 1994. When Star Trek The Next Generation ended in 1994, writers like Ronald D. Moore and Renee Echevarria transferred over to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Moore and Echevarria played a big role in reshaping Star Trek Deep Space Nine in line with Ira Stephen Bear's vision for the show. Bear was keen for DS9 to escape TNG's shadow, even blowing up an Enterprise to make his point. However, the influence of TNG was inescapable, to the point that behind-the-scenes stories like its 1994 Emmy campaign became a story for Dr. Bashir in DS9 Season 3. Bashir's Carrington Award story in DS9 was a Star Trek TNG and joke in Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 3, Episode 16, Profit Motive. Dr. Bashir is nominated for the prestigious Carrington Award by LT Yajia Dax, Terry Farrell. Immediately, Bashir becomes anxious because the medical prize is generally given to doctors at the end of their careers. Outwardly, Bashir doesn't believe he'll win, but begins to harbor hopes to lift the award. This was a nod to Star Trek: The Next Generation finally being nominated for an Outstanding Drama Series Emmy in its final season. Discussing the episode in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine companion, co-writer Robert Hewitt Wolfe said,